Okay, sorry about that. I hope everybody managed to make it back or eventually finds this video. Eek. Okay, so we'll start over again. My name is Ani Pomo. I am a Buddhist nun and the director of Songtsen Gampo Buddhist Center in Lakewood, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cleveland. So today we're going to be discussing the Four Immeasurables, which is a traditional teaching in the Buddhist path. And then we'll be doing some meditation after. But before we do that, we want to establish our bodhicitta motivation. So bodhicitta is the Sanskrit word meaning awakened mind heart. So what it signifies, though, is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So the whole purpose of our path actually is to become enlightened so that we can help others to be enlightened also. And if we are enlightened, we're free from ignorance and also, therefore, free from suffering. So this path is a path of kind of uncovering our true nature, which is actually enlightened. Right now, it's sort of by the veils of ignorance, delusion, and so forth. So we really want to consider the suffering of others in this world so that we have that sort of deep, heartfelt motivation to remove their suffering. It's compassion, but it's more than compassion. It's deeper than that. It is kind of joined with like two sides of the same coin, wisdom. And in this case, it is the wisdom that knows the cause of suffering, which is this fundamental ignorance. So that fundamental ignorance is quite different from ordinary ignorance. But the fundamental ignorance, called marikpa, really is the sort of engine of cyclic existence, so, and therefore suffering. So it's that we want to really approach. So first of all, we try to just generate compassion by considering the suffering of others. In this case, we can consider those who are in war, who live in, as particularly those who live in a war zone, where every day is a kind of hellish experience for them. They are in fear. And I'm not even talking about the soldiers. I'm talking about just ordinary people who happen to live in that area, whose homes are getting destroyed, whose lives are in danger every single day, who lose their loved ones. So if we can just kind of think about them and soften our heart to their experience, and then, when we have this kind of compassion, there's this deep feeling of like being unable to bear their suffering and really wanting them to not suffer anymore. And so that fuels our path. And every little thing we do, even this hour that we're spending together this morning, is something that is a step on the path towards removing suffering for ourselves and others. And then we just take a moment to consider our teachers. In our case, we're extremely fortunate to be led by Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, Tupu Pema Wangyo Rinpoche, and Tathum Matlo Rinpoche. Because of them, we have the teachings, we have guidance for practice, we have blessings, and so forth. So we just turn our minds to them from our perspective, with a great deal of gratitude for what they do and respect for their realization. And as Buddhists, we would ask for their blessings so that we can understand the teachings, which are sometimes quite challenging, and also put them into practice as best we can. So with that in mind, let's begin. So as I said, today we are discussing the Four Immeasurables. these are immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable sympathetic joy, and immeasurable uh, um, equanimity or impartiality. Okay. So in the other video that I messed up technically because I don't know, I made a mistake, unplugged something accidentally, and I couldn't get it back. Anyway, I had this verse printed in the description, but I didn't have time to do that today. So I'll just read it to you. The four immeasurables are this one. It's first one is love. Excuse me. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be separate from the supreme happiness which is without suffering. May they remain in the boundless equanimity, free from both attachment to close ones and rejection of others. Okay. So, love, may all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. Compassion, may they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. Sympathetic joy, may they never be separate from the supreme happiness which is suffering. And equanimity or impartiality, may they remain in the boundless equanimity, free from both attachment to close ones and rejection of others. When I edit this video, I will put that in the description so you can have access to it if you want. So let's discuss this. Okay, so before developing love and compassion, we have to have equanimity or impartiality. And here's why. If we develop love, compassion, and sympathetic joy without impartiality, in other words, with being partial to some, it's going to be so narrow, it's not going to be immeasurable, right? So we need to develop first that impartiality. Okay, and what does that mean actually? Impartiality means we don't differentiate, right? We want those that are close to us to be happy, and we want even those we really hate to be happy, right? Then through the other ones, we work on not hating anyone and loving everyone. So that may sound kind of like a big, tall order, right? To love everyone like we love our most dear people in our life. But actually, it is possible through practice. This is the thing that really, or one of the things I should say, that really differentiate Buddhism from other paths. Okay, we're not just told you should be like this, you should be like that, and then left alone, right? It's easy to say, you should be loving to all beings, but unless you are already that way, how are you supposed to do that, right? For me, this was one of the problems I had as a Catholic and as someone who very much wanted to follow the teachings of Christ. They're very challenging teachings. If one wants to take Christ's teaching, to heart, they're really challenging, right? Two of the main things that he said was, love your neighbor as yourself, right? So that's, really related to these four immeasurables. We should love everyone the way that we love ourselves. We should be as concerned with others as we are with ourselves, right? And this is something that we don't actually normally do, right? It's not that we're terrible, bad people. It's just that this really strong habit of putting ourselves before others, okay? Of thinking essentially only of ourselves. So, excuse me. I know that may sound quite harsh as a statement, but if we look at how we act on a regular basis, we see that that's true. Even how we sort of differentiate the people in our lives, right? We have, in very general terms, right? We have those that we love, those that we, hate or dislike, and those that we couldn't care less about because they neither serve us nor impede us. Yeah. If we look at why do we love someone, yeah, it's it's really because of what they do for us, isn't it? They agree with us, they make us feel good, they hold the same values as we do, they please us. Yeah. So we love them. If we look at those that we dislike or hate, it's the opposite, right? They don't please us, they don't agree with us, they don't make us happy, they, cause us to suffer. Let's- And then those in between, we neither love nor hate, we couldn't care less, Sometimes that's called neutral, but it's actually not neutral because it sort of has that negative connotation of just like, I don't care about you. You're not serving me. You're not getting in my way. So, okay, that's a problem. That's actually a problem. If we're trying to expand our hearts and expand our mind to the point where we can love everyone equally, we can have compassion for everyone equally, and so forth. We can't do that if we're very rigid about these three general categories, right? So this can be overcome through study, so hearing the teachings, excuse me, uh, contemplation, right? So we think about them. This is another important aspect in the Buddhist path, right? We don't just accept the teachings with blind faith. Oh, yes, okay, Buddha said so, so I agree. We're not actually supposed to do that in our path, in this path. We're encouraged to question, to examine, to experiment with the teachings. And contemplation is part of that. Is this true? Like what I just said, examine it. Don't just believe me. Don't just say, Auntie Palmer said it, so it must be true. She's wearing weird clothes, so it must be true, right? No, you should check it yourself. Is that how I categorize people? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're the one person who doesn't categorize people that way. But you should check for yourself. Look, contemplate, right? The people that you love. And why do you love them? The people that you dislike or hate, and why do you dislike or hate them? And then people that you don't fit in either one of those categories. Examine for yourself, see for yourself whether or not that is true. Okay. So, excuse me, uh, developing this impartiality towards all, it doesn't mean I couldn't care less about anybody in this world, right? Sometimes people feel that. They're like, what? I'm supposed to be a zombie? I'm supposed to just not care? Supposed to be just impartial? Impartial doesn't mean in these teachings that we don't care, okay? It means that we want to have love, compassion, and sympathetic joy to all beings without exception. In that sense, we are impartial, okay? So before I continue, I want to explain this word, these two words, sympathetic joy, because a lot of people don't know what that means. So it might be a glitch, in trying to understand the rest of what I'm saying. So sympathetic joy means that we are happy for the happiness of others. All right. Typically, it's an antidote to jealousy. In jealousy, we feel bad about the happiness of others, right? We have a sense of like resentment and a very sort of constricted heart, right? So sympathetic joy is being happy for the happiness of others rather than resenting the happiness of others, right? And we all have our own thing about that. We may say, oh, I'm not really a jealous person. It's not really my problem. And, that may be true. There's some people who have, in general, a stronger habit of jealousy, and some people, in general, who have a lesser habit of jealousy. So we have to look at ourselves and see. But I bet that there are at least a few times where we feel jealous of someone else. All right. And that will depend on us as individuals, and who, what our habits are and what our thing is. All right. Like in my case, for example, in my case, I really want to spend a lot of time with my teacher, and he's in France. And even when I'm there, which I go typically every year, I couldn't go this year because of the virus, but typically I'm there every year, and I don't get that much time with him. So when I'm here in America, and I think about my Dharma friends in France, jealousy arises. Oh, they get to be around him all the time. Why do they get to be around him all the time? And I'm across the ocean. No, that's jealousy, right? So in that case, from my own example, rather than feeling kind of bitter and resentful because they get to be there with him and I'm here, I could feel and should work on, frankly, um, sympathetic joy. You know, they have joy for being there, and I have that sympathetic joy. Like, how wonderful for them! How wonderful for them that they can be near to Rinpoche all the time, or at least more than I get to be around him, right? And that they get to live in France, which doesn't have a cuckoo leader, and in this beautiful area in France where our center is, and on and on, And I used to live in Cleveland. Okay, so feel joy for them. How nice for them, yeah. And then this is the thing with jealousy. It's really quite a well, Songtsen Rinpoche says jealousy is the best emotion, which I have to agree, right? We can't, jealousy only hurts ourselves. That's it. He says, like, at least with anger, you can go and punch somebody in the face, and you could like affect somebody else. But with jealousy, all you're doing is hurting yourself. Jealousy doesn't move all those people from France and drop them in England, right? Jealousy, if we're jealous of somebody's money, for example, doesn't take away their money, doesn't affect them in any way whatsoever. But we walk around with this tight heart and with all of our resentment, which makes us suffer. Why? It's dumb, right? So rather than kind of having this resentment towards others, we can develop joy that, oh, they're happy. I'm so happy that they're happy. So every time that we might feel jealousy, we sort of train our mind to feel happiness. Like, isn't that so much better than being jealous? We're happy a lot more because we have sympathetic joy. So when I'm talking about sympathetic joy, I'm talking about that. All right. And when we talk about sympathetic joy as an immeasurable, okay, then we don't have a boundary on who receives our sympathetic joy, right? We have that for everyone. Often what happens when we don't like someone is that we become happy in their suffering. Their suffering makes us happy, right? And anything good that happens to them fills us with like resentment and anger. Okay, this is really not good. Yeah, and we can work around that. We can change that. Okay, so that's what I mean by sympathetic joy. But I want to go in this order. So typically, these four immeasurables are arranged: love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. But our teachers always say we should start with that impartiality, okay? And a good way, so as I said earlier, so that we're not narrow in the other three, right? So how do we develop equanimity or impartiality? One way is to see that, like, the changing nature of relationships, right? Right now, we love the people we love and we hate the people we hate. Let's take that as an example, okay? Why do we hate some of those people, though? Okay, why? A lot of the times, the people we hate the most are the same people that we loved the most, that we used to love the most, right? We loved them, and through that loving relationship, They figured out what all of our buttons are and our most sensitive um, points, right? And then they became angry with us for whatever reason, and they just pushed all of those buttons. Okay? Now we hate them. Well, the fact that that changes proves that all our relationships can change. And if we look at our life until now, we see that that is really, really true. You know, remember when you were a little kid and you had like your best friend, and maybe you even did, I don't know if it's popular anymore, but when I was a kid, we used to do like blood brothers, okay? And you would prick your finger and your friend would prick their finger, and then you would mingle the blood. It's kind of gross when I think about it now. But anyway, right? Where is that person now? Maybe you're still friends, but a lot of times you drift apart. And at this point, you don't even know if that person's alive or dead, right? So that relationship changed. As I said before, love relationships can turn into hate relationships. Just go to divorce court and you can see that, right? Then friends become loved ones, yeah. Strangers. The person we love the most right now began as a stranger, yeah. Then we became closer, and then we developed a relationship, and now we love them, and then they betray us, and then we hate them, and then we have a good talk, and then we like them again, even if we don't have a relationship. So, given the fact that all of these relationships are changeable, how can we really label love, hate, don't care? Strangers, we just don't care. Right? Strangers become loved ones, and so forth. And that's just in this life. That's not even considering past and future lives. Yeah. If we think about past and future lives, it becomes even more obvious, right? There's a story, I think his name was Saraha, but I'm not sure, who was a great adept. And he came upon this scene in an Indian village, and he saw a woman sitting on a chair in the courtyard with her baby, beloved baby, in her arms, eating fish curry. And there was a dog, a stray dog, like in India, there's a lot of dogs just wandering around, who came up and was trying to, wanted some of that fish curry, and she was kicking the dog to get it away, which is, again, really common, unfortunately, in India and Nepal. Uh, so he looks at that, and because he's a spiritual adept, he can see the whole situation from the past lives till now. So the baby that she was holding was her hated neighbor, like her biggest enemy, who was reborn in this life as her child, who she loves more than anything in the world now, right? The fish that she was eating had been her father, who was reborn a fish and caught, and now she's eating her father, essentially. And the dog had been her mother, and she's kicking this dog, and the dog wants to eat the curry, right? And he sees this scene, and he describes it very briefly, and then he says, I don't know whether to laugh. He says, I don't know whether to laugh or cry at samsara's show. Samsara is cyclic existence, right? So we cannot really limit our compassion and love and sympathetic joy, right? And we can practice to get to that point of having no limits to those things. It is possible. I've seen it in my own teachers. They do not differentiate between who receives their love and compassion and who doesn't. Okay? It's very clear for them. All right. So, equanimity. So, love is essentially, briefly, the wish that others be happy. And compassion, in one line here, is the wish that others be free from suffering. Okay. Well, that's not very difficult. Okay. All right, so I want to read to you this beautiful little quote from Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Old Path, White Clouds. So I'm just going to show you that. Okay, this is the book. You see it's quite thick. Um, there we go. Path, White Clouds. That's what it looks like. And this is the story of the Buddha, the Buddha's life. Thich Nhat Hanh is this great master. If you don't know him, get to know him. He's marvelous. And you can see on our website on the left column, there's a, I think it's called resources. So if you click on that, book list. So it's just a list of recommended books that I put, that I put together, that I've read or I trust the author, and it's divided into various subjects. So I would really have a look at that. Anyway, this book, it's, as I said, it's quite thick. And what he did was he went through the sutras and he, about all of the different things that had to do with the life of the Buddha, and then he put it together in this book. It's beautifully written. It's not like a heavy scholarly text. It's just gorgeous. So I really recommend reading this. Okay. So anyway, this is from the book, and I'll just read it to you. It's quite short. So the Buddha taught the following to his son Rahula. Rahula, practice loving kindness to overcome anger. Loving kindness has the capacity to bring happiness to others without demanding anything in return. Practice compassion to overcome cruelty. Compassion has the capacity to remove the suffering of others without expecting anything in return. Practice sympathetic joy to overcome hatred. Sympathetic joy arises when one rejoices over the happiness of others and wishes others well-being and success. Practice non-attachment to overcome prejudice. Non-attachment, and this is his word for impartiality. Non-attachment is the way of looking at all things openly and equally. This is because that is. Myself and others are not separate. Do not reject one thing only to chase after another. I call these the Four Immeasurables. Practice them and you will become a refreshing source of vitality and happiness for others. All right. So that I will leave there, okay? And we will do some meditation now. So what I want to do is we're going to do a few minutes of just mindfulness, or breathing practice to kind of bring mind and body together in the same place, okay? And then we're going to do a practice called Tonglen, or the practice of exchange, which I will explain to you when we get there. All right, so let's begin with mindfulness, or breathing practice. The essence of this practice is to just let the thoughts come and go and maintain awareness of the breath. All right, that's really it. We keep the posture, which I'll explain briefly, and then we focus on the breath, a relaxed awareness of the breath. Okay, I know in the West, when I say focus, it becomes like concentrate. Okay, we don't want it to be like that. All right, just relax, focus on the breath. Okay, you're still aware of everything else around you, whatever sounds are happening, in your chair or the floor or wherever you're sitting, all right, and so forth. But mainly you're focusing on the breath. Then in the mind, you don't try to stop thinking. Okay, it's not possible anyway. We'll be so frustrated if we try to do things that way. All right. What we want to do is just not engage with the thoughts. The thought will arise, dwell, and disappear, immediately followed by another thought that arises, dwells, and disappears, and on and on. So we want to maintain our awareness of breath and allow those thoughts and emotions to pass through like clouds through the sky. So let me give you a brief example. What we want to avoid is this running after the thoughts, right? So let's say we're sitting, we're trying to meditate, and then thought arises, oh, today is a really nice day. Weather's beautiful, finally cooled down. Okay? What we want to avoid is running after that, as I said. So let's say we have that thought, oh, it's a really nice day. Then right away we start jumping into the storyline. Oh, it's a really nice day. I should go biking this afternoon with my friend, but I have to do grocery shopping. Oh, my laundry isn't done. Maybe I could do that tomorrow. Oh my God, tomorrow's Monday after work. Da-dun, 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 da-dun. Right. This is what we want to stop. But that's going to happen because we're beginners. So as soon as that happens, when that happens, there'll be a point where we realize we got distracted. That's our natural awareness arising. We go, oh, right, I'm supposed to be meditating. Bring the mind back to the breath. Okay. What we want to do is we have the posture, we're maintaining, we're meditating, that same thought arises. Uh, it's a really nice day today. And we don't jump into the storyline. We can say thinking and come back to the breath, or we can just maintain awareness of the breath, or we can just come back to the breath without labeling it thinking. Okay? So it's quite simple. The benefits are amazing of doing this practice, particularly if we do it every single day. And I think that's all I say about it. So let's start it. Okay. So we begin by adopting the posture. I don't know where my head is today. I'm sorry. So if you're sitting in a chair, just put your feet flat on the floor in front of you because that will help you to keep a straight back. If you're sitting on the floor, just cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. Okay. The rest of the instructions are the same. So your hand should be either palms down on your knees or your thighs, or resting like that in your lap, or with your fingers on top of each other and your thumbs touching like that, like you're holding an egg. Whichever of those you're most comfortable with is fine. So your back is straight. That's the most important thing. So make sure your back is straight, but you don't want to be like that, like you're in the army. Okay, just straight but relaxed. Chin's going to be tucked in just a little bit, not like that. All right, just tucked in a little bit so that your back of your neck, the spine here is also straight. Okay, so you want to do that. Arms are relaxed, not held in, held out, just relaxed. Okay, I really suggest not part of the traditional teachings, but I find it really helpful just to roll my shoulders back, which kind of straightens the back and opens up the chest. Right? Mouth is closed but relaxed, tongue resting in the roof of the mouth, breathing through the nose. Ideally, our eyes should be half open. So if you just look straight ahead and you lower your eyes about halfway, that will be a relaxed, lowered gaze. You're on the floor or whatever, and it's about 6 feet in front of you for most people, roughly. Uh, but if you're really not comfortable, just go ahead and close your eyes. It's just easier to fall asleep if our eyes are closed, then easier to get distracted and things like that. So that's why we meditate with our eyes open, right? You're not focusing on anything, just an unfocused gaze. And breathe through your nose. Pay attention to that sensation of the breath coming in and out of your nose. Don't try to control your breathing, just breathe naturally. Now we want to maintain continuous awareness of the breath in a relaxed way. And thoughts come and go. If you get distracted, simply bring the mind back. That's it. Okay, so let's do that. I will ring the gong to start and also to finish. Okay. Now please begin to count the breaths, counting either every in-breath or every out-breath, doesn't matter, up to a total of 10 breaths. Counting helps us to realize more quickly when we've gotten distracted. So let's say you lose count at 4 and you go running after some big storyline. That's fine. As soon as you realize that, just bring the mind back. Start again at 1. If you get to 10, just come back. Start again at 1. If you go beyond 10, it's another form of distraction. So if you find yourself at, whatever, 15, 20, what have you, as soon as you realize that, bring your mind back. Start again at 1. Simple as that. Okay, so let's begin that now. Okay, so now we are going to do a practice called Tonglen, which is the practice of exchange. Okay, so what are we exchanging? So what we are exchanging in this practice is uh, our own happiness. Sorry, guys, I'm so thirsty. Our own happiness for the suffering of others. So we take on the suffering of others and we offer them our own happiness. So this might sound kind of masochistic or whatever, but It's not meant to be that way. It's meant to be something that works with that habit that I was talking about earlier, that we have of kind of always putting ourselves first and not caring that much about others. So because that habit is strong, this meditation is strong, okay, to sort of turn ego on its head, all right? So I'm not going to explain the practice. I'm just going to guide you through it. And, if it needs explanation as we go along, I'll explain that. Okay. We are going to do this practice today for someone that we dislike. So there's a range of hatred, if you want, or dislike, if you want. There's on the low end is people who we just find annoying. Okay, that might be like a neighbor who, plays their music till 2 in the morning, or a relative who never shuts up, or this kind of thing, right? Excuse me. That's on the low end. On the high end are those who sort of cause trauma for us, right? When we think of them, we want to cry or scream, this kind of thing. So we're not going to do that, right? And I really, really, really advise you not to go there until you are quite well versed in this practice overall. Otherwise, you're just going to like relive the trauma and then, have difficulties. So just work on the other stuff first. So the middle range of this spectrum for those that we dislike, just someone that we really dislike, or that we're having a hard time with right now. Like it might be someone we normally love, but at the moment we're fighting. Okay. Or it can be someone that we see on a pretty regular basis and like, I just don't like this person. All right. So that's going to be the focus of our meditation today. So the first thing I want you to do is, again, take the meditation posture. All right. Just as I described earlier, relax your body, relax your mind while maintaining the posture and maintaining some sense of awareness. In this practice, if you want to close your eyes, this will be fine. Right? So let's take just a few breaths to be aware, do a little bit of mindfulness or breathing practice. And then we want to rest the mind. So that means just settle the mind, just let it be, but don't be distracted. Right? Just let the mind rest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ring the gong. Just listen to the sound as long as you can hear it, and then let your mind rest. Now imagine in your heart center, which is the middle of your chest, a very bright white light, like a shining star, with light going in all directions. Now consider that you're breathing in gray smoke, hot, dark, and heavy, through all the pores of your body. And all of that smoke dissolves completely into the white light in your heart center. So there's not a single particle of smoke left. There's only light. Now breathe out this white light through all the pores of your body. It's cool, clean, clear, very bright. Breathe out, goes on directions. Now imagine in front of you someone that you dislike. Just picture them there facing you, and you might feel a bit of discomfort, your heart tightening a little bit. That's okay, just let that be part of the process. So the first thing we want to do is to consider the changing nature of relationships, which I talked about earlier. And what that does is it helps to kind of loosen up that feeling that we have or thought that we have that this relationship will always be bad. Okay? Things change. Then we consider our similarities with this person, mainly that we both want to be happy, we both want to avoid suffering, and we both suffer nonetheless. Then we need to examine where this dislike comes from. Our usual thought is that it comes from them, right? They behaved a certain way and I dislike them. The fact that I dislike them is their fault and my dislike belongs to them. Okay? But it doesn't. It doesn't. If that were the case, everybody would dislike them. And there are people who love them. Our least favorite person is someone else's most favorite person, right? So if one person can hate them and one person can love them, that love or that hate cannot be inherent in that person. Right? So our dislike for them belongs to us. It comes from our own mind, and we can change that. Okay? So the next thing we want to consider is this person's suffering. So no matter what we do, positive or negative, we do because we want to relieve some kind of suffering for ourselves. So people who are always acting negative, people who are sort of hateful, this kind of thing, that comes from suffering, and that itself is suffering. Right? We feel uncomfortable, so the anger that we feel towards someone makes us uncomfortable, so we think it will go away if we punch them in the face, or if we send them a nasty email, or if we, you know, chew them out. All right, but that doesn't. If we observe, that doesn't take away our pain at all. It just creates more. Right? It's the same for them. So if we think about that pain, it becomes easier to have compassion for them. Also, people who are habitually negative, they they have a lot of problems in their life. There's a lot of people they don't get along with, right? And usually, from their perspective, they think that like they don't see themselves a lot of times, and they just feel like the world is out to get them, and they don't understand why nobody likes them, and all of that kind of stuff. So how can we not have compassion for that suffering? And having compassion for them doesn't mean that we think what they did was okay. We can still think what they did was wrong. However, I have compassion for them. All right. And we think about whatever other problems this person might have. Maybe they're physically sick or have some other difficulty. Maybe they're an addict or have a lot of anger or problems in their family or at work. Maybe they have money problems, whatever it is. We think about all of their suffering, whatever it is, and we consider that their suffering takes the form of gray smoke, hot, dark, and heavy, and it leaves them when it comes to you. And you breathe that in through all the pores of your body. Every particle of that smoke dissolves into the white light in your heart center until there's not a single particle left. There's only light. So now you offer this person your own happiness, giving it away, your own good fortune, anything at all that they may need, and adding to that the wish that they attain full and complete enlightenment in this very life. And all that takes the form of white light, cool and clear, very bright. And you breathe that out through all the pores of your body. And when the light touches them, this person's suffering completely disappears. They feel very relaxed, happy, at ease, and you feel really joyful being able to do this for them. Next, we send it out towards all sentient beings. First, imagining them all around us as far as the eye can see. In front, as many beings as we can conceive of, stretching all the way to the horizon. Same thing to the right, all the way to the horizon. Behind us, as many beings as we can imagine, all the way to the horizon. And to the left, again, all the way to the horizon. So now we're surrounded by all sentient beings. And we do the same practice. Consider how we're the same and wanting to be happy, wanting to avoid suffering. We consider all of their suffering. Also, we consider our connection to them. According to the Buddha, each one has been our kind and loving mother in previous lives. But even if we don't accept that, that's fine. We share this planet, the fate of this planet, the earth, the air, the water. And also we should think about how many beings are involved in supporting us on a day-to-day level, supporting our very life. Those who grow our food, who make our clothing, who build our home, who keep the utilities running properly, who take care of the roads, on and on and on. So we're so connected to so many beings who we don't even know, but who we could not live without. So we consider all these beings all around us, consider their suffering, physical, mental, emotional. Even though we don't know what it is, unfortunately, we can be sure that they're suffering just by virtue of being in suffering existence. So all their suffering takes the form of gray smoke, hot, dark, and heavy. It leaves them and it comes to you without any hesitation whatsoever. Breathe that in through all the pores of your body. Every particle of that smoke dissolves into that bright white light in your heart center. So there's not a single particle of smoke left. There's only light. And you offer all these beings without exception your own happiness. So giving it away, you should consider that you don't have it anymore once you give it to them. You also include anything at all that they may need, and adding to that the wish that they attain full and complete enlightenment. All of those things take the form of white light, cool, clean, clear, very, very bright. And you breathe that out through all the pores of your body, every single pore of your body, emanating a ray of white light in every direction. This light goes to the very horizon in every direction and touches all these beings individually. And as it does so, their sufferings completely lift off of them and disappear like fog in the morning sun. And they feel so relieved, relaxed, happy, and you feel really joyful for being able to do this for them. Now you let go of the visualization altogether. Gently bring the mind back to the breath. Allowing the breath to bring and keep the mind, the awareness of the breath, keep the mind in the present moment, here and now. So that's the end of our session, but we're going to say the closing prayers. There's a link for them in the description there. So have a look at that if you don't already have them. And we're going to start with the long life prayers. These we're just going to say in Tibetan. First one is for the Dalai Lama. Kwe wawe kowe shinkan su dandong de wa mani juwe chenwe singam ten singam soyi shape gya ga ba tu tengu shi. Om Swasti Jime Rajam Se Chimati Kense Dukali Se Nidancho Sabsun Nishi Koje Kapenchi Tender Mebe Chime Dashi Sho. Then to the panel window of the shade. Om Swasti Selai Gamsu Chima Jinjune Kunsen Takse Giju Kamawam Samsuna De Gampo Tadene La Chen Tende Shiju Taide Sho. And the teachers in general. Lama Gungan Sango Soade Chutu Kute Rima Soade Chile Tashin Gepa Soade Lama Dade Wame Pachindilo. Now the next page, so we're dedicating the merit, okay? And merit is a kind of positive karma or positive energy that we generate through practice and study. And we're dedicating it towards all sentient beings. So we begin with bodhicitta, we end with bodhicitta. So let's do this one. This one we do in English and Tibetan. The rest we do in English, and then we do the 100 syllables. By this merit, we not retain omniscience, may defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free all beings. Sonam di tamche sikani, chone nyebe danam pamche shi. Egana chi balon trupahi, sibe sore joa joa sho. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen may it never fail to grow and flourish ever more and more. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Ever absorbed in the display of divine forms and primordial awareness, appearance, sound, and perception, state of divinities, mantras, and dharmakaya. May I, inseparable from the practice of the profound and secret great yoga, attain within the essence of mind the state of oneness. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manubalaya Vajra Sattva Janova Tishta Dejo Me Bala Subhokaya Me Bala Subhokaya Me Bala Amida Me Bala Sarasviti Me Prayatsa Sawakama Sutsame Chitam Shri Han Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavad Sarvapata Bhadramani Munsa Padri Pawama Samaya Sata. Okay, so now we have some time for question and answer if you like. If you have a question, just put it in the chat and I will do my best to answer it. But please know I don't wait very long, so if you have a question, now's your chance. Okay, so wait a moment. You guys never have questions. Okay, so a couple announcements. Classes start in September. There'll be more. We just did a retreat yesterday, a day-long retreat. It was so nice. And so we'll be doing that again. We'll be doing seminars. We have children's meditation the last Sunday of the month via Zoom. The best way, absolute best way to learn about all of this is to sign up for our newsletter. So the link is down below. The link for our website is down below. And also, there's a link for donations. Um, we're not at the center anymore because of the virus, but we still have to pay rent, we still have to pay utilities, and so forth. So, if possible, if you have money to spare, which I understand that everybody does, it would be great if you could make a donation. We're so appreciative of any donation, no matter the size. So please think about that if you can. And we will be together next Sunday doing meditation again. So please join us on Sunday and have a great week. And I will see you soon, hopefully. Bye bye. Thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, so long.